let you sit down. Could make you stand, right? You guys want to? I have to stand for the next, 20, 30 minutes. I should make you guys stand for the next 20, 30 minutes, right? Seems fair. All right. Hey, Happy New Year. All right. Happy birthday, Pastor. All right. All right. He loves it. He loves it when I call him at midnight and remind him. And he actually waits up now. Like when Jillian was a baby, he would give me a hard time because I'd call and wake her up, and he'd forget to silence his phone, so I'd wake up the baby. But I'd still wish him a Happy New Year. And now he looks forward to it, and he stays awake just so that he can answer my phone call, right? And then go to bed. So we're so glad that you guys are here today. It's a new year. How many of you, Billy said, okay, a bunch of you raised your hands this morning that you had a New Year's resolution. How many of you have already broken that? Okay. Yeah, a couple of hands. A couple of you were actually honest. So one of the things that we like to do, or I like to do, is the first of the year is go back and look at what was last year at our church. What did it look like? Because we do a lot of things here as a church, and some of it, sometimes we just forget all of the things that we've gone through. If you go through the Old Testament, there was a lot of times like the nation of Israel would go through something, and God would say, here, build a memorial because you're going to forget this amazing thing. And so I like to go through some of our memories every year and just kind of highlight the things that we've accomplished. So last year, if we were to put a theme on it, Pastor and I were talking, last year the theme was bounce back. Okay? And as a church, I think we did a pretty great job of that. This year's theme for 2023, it's going to be spring forward. Last year we bounced back, we're going to spring forward. So bouncing back. We do this church strategy. So we kind of rededicated back on our mission, which the mission of Bay State is to, lead people in a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. If you don't know what it is, it's right there over there, the big Bay State logo. It's at the bottom. Okay, so we lead people in a growing relationship with Jesus Christ by providing a purpose to live for, power to live on, people to live with, principles to live by, and a profession to live out. Okay, so that's kind of our strategy. So we do this thing where we look at, how many of you are business-minded? Okay, cool. You got a couple of people business-minded. So what in businesses, you look at vertical and horizontal growth, right? Well, guess what? As a church, I'm going to ruin some of the magic of it. We do the same thing. Okay? So we look at, how many people were, on a Sunday morning, how many people were here this week? How many people were here last week? Is it getting better? Is it, how many, over the year, is it trending up? And so that's like, we're looking for like vertical growth. We want Sunday morning services to be packed, right? Right? It's exciting, right? Because who wants to go to an empty church? Right? It's more fun to go with a bunch of church because it is amazing. It is much more amazing to hear 100 people singing than it is to hear 5. Okay? So we look at, we want to see some vertical growth. We also want to see horizontal growth. So we want to see people not just come to church, but develop a relationship with Jesus. Get involved in learning more about their faith, growing in their faith, following Him in baptism, building relationships with one another, building your relationship with Jesus, getting involved in ministry. So that's kind of the horizontal growth. So as you're growing in your own faith, guess what? We're tracking that too. So we track those stats. So we do 5 C's, and so C1 is our outreach team. That's the group of people that are just going out into the community, getting involved in the community, and trying to do stuff. So 2022, they held 6 major events. 2 blood drives, which, I don't know if you guys know this, but we're right on 3A. Thousands of people drive by our building every day. And so we had two blood drives here. And the first one we did, they were so excited about the turnout that we had, they said, when can we come back? Okay? So we did 2 blood drives. We participated in Clean Up, Green Up, which is a community event here in Billerica. The whole town comes out and just picks up trash and kind of beautifies the town. We had 25 people come and participate in Clean Up, Green Up. We did Yankee Doodle Parade. Okay, there's an event up at the high school. There is literally a parade. The town comes by our front door. You can't get a better outreach event than that, right? We had 75 people get involved in running Yankee Doodle. We did Adopt a Pastor. adopting some of our pastors in Africa through Global Baptist Training Foundation. We did adopt a child at Christmas time through House of Hope. We had 30 kids benefit from, or excuse me, 30 people get involved in buying gifts for children that otherwise may not have had them. So that's one of the great things. I mean, right? You guys did good. Okay. Good. All right. Hey, someone's excited. All right. There we go. So we had they had 2 new members join their as far as regular servants. They had 2 new members join their team. So that's 10 people organizing all those events. Our C2 group. I don't know if you know this. You're a C2. Okay. Everybody, so C2 is like our Sunday morning thing. In 2022, we had 265 unique people, and that's not counting people who just came in and didn't give us their name, but 265 unique people come to physically attend church on a Sunday morning in 2022. Okay? So as far as people that gave us their name, that was actually up 20% from last year. Okay? Overall, if I just add all of the Sunday morning attendances together from 2022 to 2021, we were actually up 16% of just, okay? Now, I want to compare that for a second. I want this is one of the church stats, and I forget who produces it, but this is one of the latest statistics, and this came out in the last couple of weeks. Overall, 2022 saw a 28% drop in church attendance. We were up 16. Right? Now, they couch this with, this varies greatly by region, with some pastors, particularly in the Northeast, experiencing a 30 to 60% drop in in-person attendance. I hate to tell you this, but we are the anti-church. We always have been. And so we, 30 to 60% drop in in-person attendance in the Northeast, and we had up 16%. So we had 48 people last year gave us their contact information. They got added to our database. Okay? I love our numbers. I love being able to reach out to people and get them connected, because guess what? That's part of our strategy. I can't move you along if I don't know how to get a hold of you. We had Christmas alone, we had 35 families come first time. Right? We gave out those gift bags, 35 families at Christmas. Last year we had several people get saved. Okay, let me try that again. Last year we had several people get saved. Okay? We had 8 take that first step of obedience in baptism. Okay? Okay? And just so you know, that is how you should react to that. Okay? That is exciting. Our C3 is our education wing. So that's our circles groups. So last year we had 30 people involved in home-based circles. Okay? In counting all of our circles, so we have like our home-based circles, and then we have our large circles, which are like Ascend, Speeders, those. Overall, in 2022, we had 74 people involved in at least one circle. Okay? Our C4. C4 is getting involved in serving. We had 46 people serving regularly in at least one role. Right? So that's why. So when I say like we're moving you through, you're going from like I came to church once, I came back to church and I gave you my information. I, started getting involved in the church. And then I started serving. So that's how we're following along. So we're trying to move you through these strategies. So 2022, as I said, we kind of reset the baseline on the mission. We bounced back. For 2023, we're going to spring forward, and Pastor next week is back. So if you don't like my message, come back next week. It's Pastor again. Next week is we're going to start the sprint. Okay, that's the message. The other stat I want to share with you is we had one group just kind of formed out of spontaneity, and then Pastor mentioned them in a message, and so they became the Fat Faithful. Right? So the fat faithful, I actually did the math. Over the course of the time, was it 2 months? Right? 3 months? It was a long time. So over the course of the fat faithful, the guys that were in the fat faithful lost a combined total of 57 pounds. Now, a lot of that was found in the last week. A lot of them, like they so but I just went with what they lost. I didn't, put how much they put back on. But so that was that last week, and that kind of leads us to where I'm going this morning. Is we talked about our New Year's resolutions. Some of us just want to lose weight. Maybe some of us just want to be nicer. Perhaps your New Year's resolution is get out of debt because you just saw that credit card bill from Christmas, which we have a circle for that coming up. We do FPU. Maybe you want to give more or start giving. Maybe you want to start school, go back to school, finish school. You have some education goals. Maybe 2022 is one of those years where you look back and you say, you know what, I really didn't appreciate all of these things that we did and accomplished, and I want to be more appreciative of the things that I have. So maybe that's your resolution. But why do we do it? Why do we make these New Year's resolutions? We do them because we want to feel better, right? I mean, does anybody granted there are some, but does anybody truly just enjoy being miserable? That's the old joke about logisticians. Logisticians aren't happy unless they're not happy. But there are people like that. For the most part, though, we do these resolutions because we want to feel better. We want to be better people. And so Paul, in his writings to the Roman church, he actually gave us a list of resolutions and reasons behind them in Romans 12. So it's one of those great chapters. And if you go through Romans, he gives in previous chapters he talks about the Old Testament. He talks about the revelations that were given to Israel and how God had systematically and gradually revealed himself more and more to Israel in the Old Testament. And he ends off in chapter 11 talking about how God had opened this door and given all of these revelations to the nation of Israel, and they said, no thanks. They had turned their back on him. And so what happened is because Israel had turned their back on God, God said, okay, well, there's these other group of people, the Gentiles, who haven't had my revelation for these thousands of years, and so I'm gonna go open the gospel up to them. And so, for me and you, thank you for turning your back and allowing us to have that. And so you and I then are opened up to the gospel. And so writing to the church in Rome, to the Gentiles, Paul opens chapter 12 with this in Romans 12, 1 and 2. He says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed to this world, but be you transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Okay? Now, how many of you have ever wondered what the will of God for your life is? Okay, it's right there. That's the will of God for your life. Okay? And so we talk about reasonable service. Now, what's reasonable? It kind of gets thrown around a lot of in different contexts. But the word reasonable here, if you look at the Greek, it's actually the word logikos, which is where we get logical. Okay, so it's based on all of these reasons that were given by Paul in the previous chapter. He goes because God and Jesus did all of these things for you, it is only logical. Little Spock there. That Christians present ourselves as a living sacrifice, as a holy sacrifice. Okay? Now, one of those sacrifice is one of those words we really don't enjoy, right? Does anybody enjoy sacrifice? No. Webster's defines it. We look at kind of the modern context of it. Webster's calls sacrifice suffering a loss destroying or putting an end to something. If you look at at some of the older definitions, it used to be defined as surrendering for the sake of another. Okay, I like that one better. Okay, to me it's a better definition of what Paul was going for here. And so I wanted to kind of talk about. So you think about sacrifice and what's reasonable. I don't know if you know this, but I have pets, and I know Brian has a dog that. That's true. Jake was your last dog, and so I have pets. I have a cat that hurt. Okay, where's my cat, people? So I have a cat. Now, according to the records at my veterinarian's office, her name is Missy. Calvin, what's her name? Silly Miss Silly Fat Cat. Okay, because when we got her, she was overweight. And we lived in a house that had a lot of mice, and so we didn't feed her that much, but she supplemented her own food. And so she managed to put on weight, even though we fed her a lot less than she should have been getting. Now, my cat does not know her name. It has been her name for years. We have called her that name. She never comes. Right? She doesn't come when called because she's a cat. Now, she will come to you when it suits her. Okay? When she's okay with it, she'll come. When she's hungry, at 5 o'clock in the morning, she will meow as loudly as she can, upstairs, downstairs, outside my door, everywhere. And if that doesn't get you out of bed to feed her, she'll start clawing the door. Okay? Because she's a cat. When she's bored, she will let us pet her. Right? That's cats. Okay? When she wants to go outside, she claws the door. When she's bored of being outside and wants to come back inside, she claws the door. Okay? And not just like petting the door, like she takes hunks of wood out of my door frame. I have replaced the insulation on my outside door like 6 times because of that cat. Okay? When you get home and you've been away and you come home, she looks at you indifferently. She's like, oh, the humans are. And if you're a Star Trek fan, I've always pictured the Ferengi as cats, human, just like that. So she's indifferent. Now there are some very rare occasions when you can call the cat's name and she will actually come to you. But usually it's because you're holding food. Okay? Now, I have a dog. My dog's name is Pumpkin. Okay? Now, she doesn't just come when you call Pumpkin. She comes when you call Pumpkin Jones. She comes when you call Muttley. My dog, if I look at my dog and I say, beat it, broad, okay, she moves because she knows. Okay? Now, normally that's like, she likes to sleep on my pillow in my bed, and so when I'm trying to get ready for bed and she's lying on my pillow, I just say, beat it, broad, and she gets up and moves so that I can get in the bed. And then she comes back and cuddles with me. Okay? So that's my dog. She does, when I get up in the morning, so Andrea gets up in the morning before me. And when I finally get up, she'll wait outside the door, the bedroom door, for me to get up. When I get up, she does this like little happy dance, and she's not happy until she's just all excited in this little ball of energy until I stop like this and pet her. And she'll like come between my legs, and I have to pet her every morning. This is like a routine that has to happen because she's so excited that I am finally awake. If I come home from somewhere, she has to greet me at the store. She has to find a toy, get it in her mouth, and then come and bring it to me because she is so excited that I'm home. If I go outside and come back inside, she is so excited that I came back inside. Okay? When Pastor comes over, she gets so excited to see Pastor that she pees in his shoes. Like I can put her outside before he gets there so that she goes, and then she just can't contain herself when she sees Pastor. If I'm sitting in my chair and she needs to go outside, she goes and whines at Andrea. Right? She'll go over to her and she'll whine and tell Andrea that she needs to go outside. She does things that she's told. So if I tell her to give me a paw, she'll give me her paw. If I tell her to do a low crawl, she'll do a low crawl. This dog hates anything touching her feet. Like if you just touch her foot, she'll recoil her foot. But if I tell her to give me her paw, she'll give me her paw. Because she does anything that she can to try and please me. Because I have a dog. And so the difference between those two is my cat has a servant. Okay? And if you have a cat, you know you are your cat's servant. Okay? But if you have a dog, you are that dog's master. Okay? And that's kind of that parallel between our relationship with God. We have that type of relationship with God. We can either look at him as our servant, or he can be our master. Okay? And so, do we, in kind of that difference is, do we go to God when we need something? Or do we go to God because he wants us to go to him? Do we do what we can each day because we want to be pleasing to him? Or do we do things for him because it pleases us? And so what I want to challenge you with this morning is in this new year is be more like the dog. Okay? I know if you go through the Bible, dogs are never good, but I want you to be more like. I'm trying to change that. I want you to be more like the dog. So how do we do that? How do we become servants to Jesus instead of trying to treat him like he's ours, like our servants? Well, we start that by renewing our minds. Okay, renewing is the word renovating or making better. We want to make our minds better because I don't know if you know this. You need some brainwashing because your brains are dirty. Okay, it's just our natural tendency is to turn away from God. So you need to set some goals. You need to set some guardrails as you try and refocus towards Jesus. You try and spring forward towards Jesus. We need some goals. So as a church, what's our goal? What's our mission? Our mission is to lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. Okay, that is our goal as a church. We want to lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. Now, as an individual, you need some goals, right? And you need some goals for your life. Do you want to be? You can take that church goal. Like as a church community, our goal is to lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. But guess what? You can do that too. Okay. It's not just me and pastor and whoever's up here preaching that can lead people to Jesus, but honestly, you can do it too. You can lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. In fact, they come here. If someone comes here and sees us preaching, that's awesome, and I'm so glad that people come. But you know who has a better chance of influencing their life? You do, because they see you every day. And they can see whether or not you're faking it. And so we also need to be accountable. And so we talked about as a church, those are our gauges. And so I just gave you where the needle is right now on all of our gauges. All right, Sunday morning, first-time visitors are up. Our in-person church attendance is up. We've got more people involved in ministry. We've got more people involved in our circles. And so those are our gauges, and we watch them, and we keep track of them, of where they're going, because if we see people aren't coming, or we see people that aren't serving, or people are just stuck where they are, then we need to develop a new strategy, because whatever we're doing is not working. We need to change gears. Okay? It's like trying to, most of you millennials have never driven a Standard, but if you've ever tried going up a small hill, I said most. Mainers don't count. But if you've ever tried going up a hill in fifth gear, it doesn't work. You need to downshift. You need to change gears. And so you got to get a little bit more revs and a little more oomph behind it. And so we will adjust and shift what we do based on what we see here in a church. Now you also, as an individual, need some gauges. If you're trying to lose weight, guess what? If you never step on a scale, you're not going to know whether or not you've gained or lost weight. Now you may look like you've lost weight. You can look in a mirror, but again, that's a gauge. But so you have to have some gauges. If you're talking about your mission, what is it that God has called you to do? What is it that you're trying to accomplish for Jesus? And how can you measure that? Well, the first thing that you can do is you can write it down. Because as we talked about earlier, we get involved in stuff and we forget. How many of you remembered all of those C1 events that we did? Okay? We forget about stuff. So write it down. Write it down somewhere where you see it. That's why we actually put it up on the wall, so that we're reminded of it. So write down what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And then you kind of figure out what it is that you want to accomplish, and then you got to think about, okay, where do I start? Okay? In verse 9, Paul gave us a list of things that we can do that as Christians, and maybe your job, maybe you want to start there in 12 verse 9. I don't want to read the whole thing, and it's not on the screen. But one of those things, abhor what is evil and cling to that as good. I mean, if you're just starting out on this Christian life, that is a great place to start. Turn away from evil and cling to the things that are good. That is an awesome starting point for a Christian. If that's where it is that you want to do in life. But you can go through read Romans 12 at your leisure. If that's where it is that you want to start, but you need to set a goal. In one of those Bryanisms, if you don't set a goal, one will be assigned to you. And generally, it's not towards Jesus, unless you choose to. And so I want to ask you this morning, have you close your eyes and bow your heads with me this morning. And I want to do an invitation. And I've got kind of two different challenges this morning. And the first one is for, I think a lot of you and most of you in here this morning would say that there is a point in my life, there is a time in my life where I surrendered to Jesus. And I asked Jesus into my heart for salvation. And so if that's you and you have that relationship with Jesus, I want to ask you, what is your next step? If you've been saved, have you been baptized in scriptural baptism? If you're been saved and you've been baptized, are you giving and supporting the church that he came to establish? And if you've been saved and you've been baptized and you're giving, are you involved in serving? Are you trying to grow, actively participating and trying to grow the church? For me this year, I need a renovation. There's always things in my life that need to be tweaked and improved. And so I'd ask that maybe that's you. Maybe you are doing those things, and there's some things in your attitude and in your heart that you need to tweak. One of the things about a living sacrifice, and I think it was Max Lucado in one of his books, said the problem with the living sacrifice is it keeps crawling off the altar. And so maybe we need to bring ourselves back to the altar this year. Maybe your prayer is in 2023, I just need to grow more. And the other group this morning is maybe you're here and you have never accepted Christ as your Savior. You can't point to a time where I said, you know what, Jesus, I need to surrender my life to you. And I want to give you that opportunity this morning. I want to lead you in a simple prayer. There's nothing magic about the words, but it's just you doing business with Jesus this morning. And I just ask that if that's you and you want to get saved this morning, I just ask that you pray something along these lines. Jesus, I'm not perfect. I know that you have a standard, and Jesus, I know I'm not it. But Lord, you came and you died on a cross and rose again for me. you did that so that I could have salvation. You did that so that I could be a part of your family. And Jesus, I pray this morning that you come into my heart. Forgive me for my sin and call me one of your own today. I just ask it in Christ's name. Amen.